The stars had never seemed so quiet. Across the galactic core, 1,000 civilizations gathered under the vaulted spires of the Grand Council of Concordia, a station so vast it could eclipse a moon. Holographic banners shimmered with the emblems of species who had ruled the galaxy for 10 millennia. The council's chambers, carved from white crystalline alloys, glowed with the light of 1,000 suns reflected through the nebula beyond. But today, that light felt cold. The humans had arrived, and they did not come to negotiate. For centuries, the council had dismissed Earth as a minor frontier world, clever, passionate, but impulsive and unrefined. A young species, unworthy of a true seat among the elder races. Humanity had accepted that once. They had learned. They had adapted. And quietly, they had prepared. Now, the chamber's air trembled as a single warship darkened the station's orbit, the UHS Valkyrie, flagship of the United Human Systems. Sleek, angular, its hull was obsidian black, rippling with pulse energy that seemed to drink in the light. The council had seen ships before. None like this. The councillors whispered among themselves, silken voices, metallic tongues, crystalline frequencies, and orchestra of alien unease. Then the doors opened. 5 humans entered. They wore no armor, no weapons. Only dark formal uniforms marked with the silver crest of the Terran Phoenix. At their head walked Ambassador Elise Carter, her gaze steady, her voice carrying the weight of Earth itself. Beside her was Admiral Mason Drake, once a soldier in the Orion conflicts, now the symbol of humanity's unbending will. The moment they stepped into the chamber, silence spread like frost. Elise raised her head toward the towering dais where the Archon of the Council, a being of radiant energy named Vale Thor, hovered. His form shimmered like molten glass, his voice a harmonic echo. Ambassador Carter, Vale Thor intoned, the Council convenes in peace. Humanity has long sought reconciliation, has it not? Elise's reply was calm, yet her words cut through the air like blades of truth. For 2 centuries, the Council promised peace. Instead, we buried worlds in your silence. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Council's advisors shifted uncomfortably, exchanging encrypted whispers through bioluminescent pulses. Elise continued, every syllable deliberate. When our colonies were attacked by the Kelt marauders, you told us to negotiate. When our diplomats begged for aid after the Alpha Scourge, you said patience. When our fleets were ambushed in neutral space, you said accidents happen. And when we found proof of Council complicity, you said no more excuses. Admiral Drake stepped forward, his boots echoing against the polished floor. His voice was low, resonant, commanding. We have the recordings, the transmissions, the authorizations signed by Council command. For years, you orchestrated conflicts to keep us divided, to keep humanity beneath you. You feared us. Vale Thor's glow dimmed, his harmonics faltering. You presumed to judge the Council? Drake's eyes hardened. No. We came because your judgment no longer matters. The words hit the chamber like a shockwave. Outside the station, fleets of silver and blue flickered into view, human vessels surrounding Concordia like an iron halo. Not in aggression, but in assertion. The message was clear, you can no longer cage us. The Council chamber erupted into chaos, alien voices rising in protest, others in fear. Holographic feeds lit up with images of human fleets over 24 Council worlds, enforcing a silent, bloodless cordon. No weapons fired. No threats broadcast. Just quiet containment. Elise Carter waited until the echoes faded. You wanted humanity silent. You ignored our cries, twisted our history, and exploited our youth for your wars. Now we walk away, and you will face what silence feels like. She turned to leave. But before she could take her second step, Vale Thor's voice surged again, desperate now. You cannot abandon the Concordia Accords. The galaxy will fracture. Elise stopped. Her tone softened, yet every word struck like thunder. Then let it fracture. Maybe something honest can be built from the pieces. She walked out. Drake followed. The others, silent as the void, marched behind. The counselors stared after them, unable to move. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, the Galactic Council felt powerless. The humans had not declared war. They had not demanded reparations. They had done something far more terrifying. They had withdrawn. In the silence that followed, news began to spread. On outer colonies, once oppressed human miners threw down the insignia of alien corporations. Terran merchants cut off trade routes overnight. Human scientists recalled their technologies from joint ventures, shutting down entire galactic industries. Entire sectors dimmed as humanity severed the lines that had fed the Council's empire for centuries. And across the stars, whispers began, whispers of fear, of awe, of reckoning. The humans have walked away. For the first time, the Council understood what they had lost. Not soldiers. Not planets. But faith. The next day, Ambassador Carter's voice was broadcast from Earth to every corner of known space. It was not a threat, it was a eulogy. We are no longer part of your system. No longer bound by your decrees. Humanity will not burn your cities, nor will we bow to your stars. We simply step beyond you. And when your worlds crumble under the weight of your lies, we will not return. The signal cut. In Concordia's halls, Veilthor watched the hologram fade. Around him, the chamber's crystalline lights flickered and dimmed, as if the station itself mourned its own decay. The Archon lowered his gaze, whispering into the silence. Perhaps they were the only ones who ever truly believed in us. Outside the viewport, the Valkyrie vanished into the darkness between galaxies, not fleeing, but ascending. The humans were leaving the Council behind, taking their knowledge, their resolve, and their future with them. And as the stars stretched into infinite streaks of light, one truth echoed through the void. The day humanity walked away, the galaxy learned what silence truly meant. The galaxy had never been so quiet, yet never so loud. It was the silence of absence, the absence of humanity from the intricate web of commerce, diplomacy, and war that the Grand Council had long controlled. On every corner of the galactic map, worlds once bound to the Council now found themselves untethered, adrift in a sudden void of authority. The result was chaos, but also something far stranger, clarity. In the orbit above Zithera Prime, a Council-controlled mining colony, ships hung like dead insects in the vacuum. They carried no banners of humans, no soldiers, no emissaries, just the mechanical hum of inactive fleets. Down on the surface, thousands of miners, both Terran and alien, stopped their work mid-stride. Machines whirred to a halt. Conveyor belts froze. The colony's holographic overseers blinked and went dark. Among the miners, a human engineer named Liam Harper exhaled slowly. His dark eyes scanned the sky where the Valkyrie had vanished the day before. They really did it, he murmured. Around him, alien colleagues whispered in disbelief, unable to comprehend the power of an act devoid of aggression. Walk away, one muttered, his voice trembling. No one ever walked away from the Council. Liam nodded. That's exactly why they won. Meanwhile, the Council of Concordia convened emergency sessions across its multiple chambers. Archons, envoys, and advisors scrambled. Light beams flickered on crystalline floors as data streamed from every sector, showing the extent of human withdrawal. Planetary trade networks collapsed. Defense grids remained unmanned. Scientific projects across dozens of worlds ground to a halt as Terran engineers, biologists, and strategists disconnected from Council systems, pulling vital knowledge back to Earth. Veilthor hovered at the center of the Grand Chamber, his molten form pulsing unevenly, resonating with a low, uneasy frequency. Around him, the elder counselors spoke in sharp bursts, a cacophony of alien languages, each more urgent than the last. They cannot do this, screeched Theron of Volek, his crystalline limbs quivering. They are a young species. They will break under pressure. Veilthor's glow dimmed. We have misjudged them, he admitted, his voice echoing like a mournful chord. We believed fear would bind them. But they have learned patience, strategy, and the weight of consequence. And they have chosen silence over war. Silence. That was humanity's weapon. Not beams of annihilation, not fleets of bombers, but the deliberate withholding of participation, a withdrawal so total it left the Council powerless, exposed, and haunted. Across the galaxy, the effects rippled. On Veron 4, a bustling trading hub, alien corporations collapsed as humans cut off logistics contracts. Entire cities shut down as energy networks powered by Terran technology failed. No humans were visible, yet their absence was felt like a gravitational pull, destabilizing centuries of control. On Earth, in contrast, the mood was electric. Admiral Mason Drake stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie, observing holographic projections of Council worlds flickering with unrest. His uniform was pristine, his posture unyielding. "Status?" Elise Carter asked, her voice calm, almost serene. "The withdrawal is complete. No Council fleet has engaged us. No colonies have resisted. We are unseen, yet everywhere," Drake replied. Elise nodded. "Good. That is the point. We do not conquer. We do not punish. We merely step into our own space." Beyond the bridge, the Valkyrie's sensors picked up something unexpected: small but significant clusters of alien populations quietly reaching out to human vessels, offering allegiance, seeking protection, asking for guidance. Humanity's mere presence, even from a distance, was transformative. In the council chambers, the atmosphere had shifted from panic to fear. Reports of failing colonies, lost communications, and sudden insurrections arrived faster than the Archons could process. A silent truth emerged: the galaxy had underestimated humanity. Veilthor convened a private council with a small cadre of advisors. His luminous form flickered nervously. "They are patient, deliberate. They do not act out of anger, only calculation. Every withdrawal, every silence, carries weight far beyond our comprehension." "Then we must act," cried Cyric of Teleron, a battle-hardened strategist. "We must mobilize our fleets, enforce obedience, reclaim control." Veilthor's voice was calm but resonant with authority. "And risk what? They have proven they do not need to fight to win. We cannot compel them. They operate beyond the reach of threat or coercion. Their victory is not in arms. It is in autonomy." The room fell silent. Even the most loyal counselors felt the chill of truth. Humanity had reshaped the rules of engagement without a single laser fired. Meanwhile, in the distant outskirts of the galaxy, on the desert world of Carida V, a young Terran historian named Rachel Moreno watched communication streams from the colonies. Her fingers hovered over the console, hesitating. There, rebuilding, she whispered to herself. Without orders, without interference, just rebuilding. A nearby alien colleague, a luminescent being named Alim Var, turned his gaze to her. "Humans, they do not govern with fear. They govern with intent. It is disconcerting." Rachel smiled faintly. "It's called hope, Alim. Something the Council forgot a long time ago." Back at the Valkyrie, Admiral Drake watched the chaos unfold on holographic displays. "The Council is panicking," he said. "But they will recover, eventually. It's the colonies that will remember this moment, the power of choice, the weight of silence." Elisa's gaze fixed on the void beyond the station. "And when the galaxy remembers, it will choose differently. That is our legacy. Not conquest. Not destruction. Freedom." The Valkyrie glided past the remains of Concordia's patrol grids, shadows of once mighty fleets drifting in orbit like relics of a forgotten age. For the first time in millennia, the Council was vulnerable. Not to war, but to the realization that their authority was no longer absolute. In distant halls, Veilthor reflected silently. His radiant form pulsed with a subtle warmth now, tempered by humility. Perhaps this was the lesson the Council had never learned, that a species could wield power not by domination, but by restraint. And somewhere, on a quiet human colony orbiting a small blue star, Liam Harper and Rachel Moreno stood together, looking up at the sky. "They'll come around eventually," Rachel said softly. "Maybe," Liam replied. "But the important part is that we're ready to walk away, even if they don't." The galaxy watched. The Council faltered. And humanity, without a single act of violence, had changed the course of history. In the coming weeks, the news spread like starlight. Entire Council worlds questioned their allegiance. Rebel factions emerged not to fight humans, but to follow their example, to step away from the Council's chains. Humanity's silence had become a language. Its message: we do not threaten. We do not conquer. We simply demand to exist on our terms. And as the stars stretched across the void, the first glimmers of a new galactic era began to shine, one defined not by fear, but by respect, courage, and the quiet, undeniable strength of humanity's resolve. The weight of their silence was heavy, but it was a weight the galaxy could not ignore. The dawn over Concordia was pale, the light of distant suns scattering across the crystalline towers like fractured glass. The station, once the proud heart of galactic authority, now felt fragile, almost hollow. For the first time in 10 millennia, the Grand Council was not convening from strength, but from fear. In the upper chambers, Archon Valefor hovered, his radiant form dimmed and pulsing with tension. Counselors of every species crowded the room, their voices weaving into a chaotic symphony of accusation, panic, and disbelief. "They cannot sustain this," shrieked Sirik of Teleron, the battle-hardened strategist. "They are a young species, they will return to reason." Valefor's response was measured, resonant, carrying the authority of 1,000 years. "They have already returned to reason. We, however, have yet to see it." Outside, human fleets shimmered like constellations forming a cage of calm inevitability. There were no weapons drawn, no attacks plotted, only presence. Their ships orbited the Council world silently, asserting control without coercion. The galaxy itself seemed to pause, awaiting the final act. On Earth, Ambassador Elise Carter and Admiral Mason Drake stood on the observation deck of the Valkyrie. The station's glassy panels revealed the scale of their influence: Concordia's patrol grids faltering, colonies in unrest, and Council fleets frozen mid-operation. "It's time," Elise said, her voice carrying the quiet weight of command. "The Council must understand that accountability is not delivered through threats or weapons. It is earned or withheld." Drake nodded. "They'll have no excuse this time. No rationalization. Just judgment." In the Council chambers, the first tremors of collapse were visible. Reports streamed in, entire planetary administrations stepping aside, Council governors resigning, fleets abandoning orders. On worlds like Zithera Prime and Veron 4, citizens demanded self-rule, inspired by humanity's decisive stand. The Council's authority was evaporating, not in war, but in the undeniable force of principle. Valefor addressed the chamber, his voice amplified by resonance fields. "Counselors, hear this: your governance has been measured. Humanity has judged it, and found it wanting." The room fell silent. Alien eyes widened. Even the most loyal counselors felt a profound unease. Judgment was not a formality. It was now a living, undeniable truth, written across the stars by the very species they had dismissed. Meanwhile, the human fleets began coordinated transmissions, not demands, but demonstrations. Holographic windows appeared across Council worlds, showing the results of humanity's work: colonies restored to self-rule, ecosystems rehabilitated, trade networks rebuilt under fair governance. No humans forced compliance. No warships fired. Only order born of restraint, efficiency, and justice. On Zithera Prime, miners watched the broadcasts, their alien foremen silent, conflicted. On Veron 4, government officials realized their power was hollow. Across hundreds of worlds, whispers began to swell. If humanity can govern without oppression, why must we obey the Council? Back on Concordia, Valefor turned to his advisors. "This is unprecedented," he admitted. "We are not being judged by force, but by example." "Then we must adapt," said Theron of Volek, crystalline limbs trembling. "We must acknowledge their governance, or perish." Valefor's glow pulsed. "It seems the galaxy has learned. And we must learn as well." The final transmission came from Ambassador Carter, projected simultaneously on every Council-controlled world and station. "We did not come to conquer. We did not come to destroy. We came to demonstrate a truth the galaxy must finally accept: authority is not granted by birthright, nor sustained by fear. It is earned, through trust, through action, and through respect. The Council has failed in this duty for millennia. Humanity steps forward not to replace you, but to remind the galaxy that justice and progress are possible. There was a pause. Then, slowly, across every council chamber, across every alien city, across every fleet, silence. A silence not of fear, but of comprehension. The galaxy understood that nothing had been taken. Humanity had not struck, had not coerced, had not demanded. Yet everything had changed. On Earth, Carter turned to Drake. "It's done," she said softly. Drake allowed a rare smile. "Not by force. By principle. That's humanity at its finest." The Valkyrie and its sister ships departed from the edges of Council space, leaving behind the seeds of a new order. Where once the Council had relied on control, it would now be confronted with accountability, transparency, and the inevitable influence of human example. In the Grand Chamber, Valethor reflected, his radiant form brightening in a way that felt almost human. He addressed the Council, his voice steady, solemn. "We are no longer the unchallenged arbiters of the galaxy. Humanity has shown us the future not through conquest, but through courage and restraint. We must adapt, or fade into irrelevance." Outside, stars stretched into infinity, their light refracting through the towering spires of Concordia like a prism of judgment and hope. Across the galaxy, humans and aliens alike felt the weight of a new era dawning. It was a dawn not defined by war or dominance, but by responsibility, example, and quiet strength. On one small human colony orbiting a blue star, Liam Harper looked up at the heavens. Beside him, Rachel Moreno whispered, "Do you think they'll ever forgive the Council?" Liam shook his head, smiling faintly. "It's not about forgiveness. It's about learning. And I think they finally will." Elise Carter and Mason Drake watched from orbit as fleets began to withdraw from contested worlds, leaving the Council to confront itself. Humanity had not struck a blow. They had simply walked away, and in doing so, reshaped the destiny of the galaxy. The final scene was quiet. Across billions of kilometers of space, the Valkyrie cut through the void, sunlight glinting on its hull. The stars, indifferent and eternal, bore witness to the moment. Humanity had judged the Council. The Council had seen the truth. And the galaxy, for the first time in 10,000 years, had hope. The age of domination had ended. The era of principled power had begun. And somewhere in the silence between stars, a simple truth echoed, unspoken but undeniable. Humanity had walked away quietly, and the galaxy would never be the same.